Okay, welcome back, everybody. Day two, part two is purpose in action. Your life is not about you. So, before I go into the content and all the other stuff, I would like to get a little bit of feedback of how everybody's feeling. Maybe using the chat box. Like, what is your takeaway? What is speaking deep into your heart? What is one thing that you would say that it was the highlight from this first section today? Or you can even talk about anything that comes from yesterday. I would be curious to know, because I know that there are a lot of things. And my goal is to not to overwhelm you with the information, but I know that it's sort of the deep stuff. So I wanted to hear that from everybody. And while people are thinking about that or typing, I also want to remind you that maybe I think I posted this. So today's day two. Julia's thinking of ourselves as creators. Yes, that is huge. And also to believe in you. Many people talk about believe in creator and an infinite, but how can we believe in ourselves, right? There's going to be a going deeper session tomorrow. So the workshop summit is like 2 days, but I always want to have one more day on Saturday tomorrow. It's going to be a little bit shorter. We're not going to go 2 hours. So there's not going to be breaks and all that. Longest will be 75 minutes. So same time, 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. And I would like everybody to bring all the questions there and to be able to, for me to answer. And the tomorrow going deeper is for those who want to go deeper. Just simple. There's no better title than that. It's a going deeper. I don't want this to be an informational, intellectual stuff, but I would like for everyone to go deeper. And let me see. So Julia said, thinking of ourselves as creators. Andre saying, change how you see yourself in your mind to bring the self closer to the soul. That is such a beautiful sentence. I highly suggest you, Andrea, to maybe post that on your social media stories and feel free to tag me. I want everybody to hear that. Change how you see yourself in your mind to bring the self closer to the soul. This is exactly what we're doing here. Jennifer is saying, I really liked your method of I am grateful and I am happy that I have been shifting a lot with it. Okay, good. And then to understand that affirmation from a 3 planes of understanding is the key. Jacqueline, yes, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, my time. So I'm not remembering if that is the same time as Arizona, because Arizona has this, not changing the time thing sometimes. Amanda is saying, working on the concept that I am to be the creator of me and that I need to change me. Nice. That is fantastic. Eric from Hong Kong, to reprogram and challenge your belief about yourself. Yes. To challenge your belief. Yeah, it needs to be uncomfortable. Believe it or not. If you're feeling comfortable, you're in this thermostat of your current self-image. So it needs to feel a little bit uncomfortable. That's where the growth is. Cheryl, I'm inspired to get out of this old programming. Yes, I'm so glad that you're being inspired, because that's what's all about. And truthfully believe in my heart that everything begins from self-thought. Yes, that's challenging. What if it's easy? What if it's easy? That's another thing that I was talking about yesterday, where when you say it's hard, you are affirming that it's hard. So what if you say it's easy to change that, because you have the power to change it, no matter what the experience has been in the past, because you are powerful, it's easy to change. Now, when you say that and when you affirm that, Cheryl, at the beginning, you might feel like you're faking, you're lying to yourself. But when you lie to yourself long enough, that becomes natural. The example that I give often is that, okay, Cheryl, probably you have been calling, your name has been Cheryl for your entire life, right? But let's say if you're calling, because Jody is down underneath, let's say your name is going to be Jody. Yeah? You're going to be signing, oh, I'm going to change my name and I'm going to call myself Jody starting tomorrow. And you change all the thing, right? And then you tell your friend, call me Jody because I'm going to be Jody starting tomorrow. And 60 days later, right? There's no magic in 60 numbers. Let's say, for example, 60 days later, if you start introducing yourself, hi, my name is Jody. My name is Jody, and people around you call Jody, you will forget that you were Cheryl. It's that simple. And all the programming and the belief and the thinking pattern is exactly the same. It's just an information because that is not who you are, essentially. That is the self, the collection of thoughts, collection of suggestion that you have been told yourself who you are, who you think you are. So when you start creating, when you start feeling that something is not easy, when you start saying however you want it to be over and over, you start shifting the way you see that. Jody, instead of I think, therefore I am, therefore. I'm glad that you brought that because there's something that I haven't said this time, but many people live life thinking that I am what I think you think I am. I am what I think you think I am. That's why a lot of people are concerned with others' point of view and judgment. Many people are afraid of how others are judging them. And in that fear and the perception of what I think they think about me start forming who they can become. But when we begin understanding that other people's, because nobody's responsible for others' feeling, because we cannot control anybody else's perception of it. So the concept of self and the thoughts that we choose is always owned by ourselves, right? So many people live life as if, and then automatically, right? I am what I think you think I am. But the shift that we need to make is I am what I choose to think I am. It has nothing to do with others. Mary, to sustain the attention and not to let subconscious mind be auto. Yes, sustaining the attention to your ideal sacred self is a key, and to navigate your attention constantly to the empower fourth dimension. I don't know, Jacqueline, if you notice that you have been direct messaging me, every single message. You might need to change the drop-down menu to make it all. So every comment, unless you're messaging me privately. Cheryl, it's easy to change because I am powerful. Awesome, Cheryl. I'm glad. Don't be sorry. Nothing to be sorry about, Jacqueline. Okay, I am glad that people are, okay, Megan, here you go. To step out of our identification with being in ego and its patterns into our hearts and souls, merging into bigger love. Yeah. So I'm one of those people who do not really reject ego. I think ego is necessary and has its place because ego is a sort of, that sense of self that comes from fear, right? And fear is inevitable. I'm not saying to remove and eliminate fear completely. There's a place for that as low polarity and contrast. But what we want to avoid is not to let ego be on the driver's seat. The soul, heart's desire, soul's expression needs to be in the driver's seat and have ego sit on the passenger seat. So whenever you need to protect yourself from the threat, the ego can express its functioning, but we never let the ego be on the driver's seat, suppressing our soul's desire. That's the shift that we need to make. And then when we become aware of beyond our mind, we will be able to observe the behavior of our ego internally. And that's, I think, where we want to be living. So that is awesome. I'm glad to hear all those comments. So what I want to do today, this time, the last part of it is that, okay, I talked about, let me just make sure that I'm talking about everything. So I talked about tomorrow, and I'll send everybody the Zoom link for the going deeper. And the replays from yesterday and today will be sent via email, and then will be uploaded on Facebook. You have access to that until the end of Tuesday. And I shared this with everybody yesterday. I think some of you weren't here yesterday. I am offering one complimentary session to set goals for next year. So there are a few people already booked this session. It doesn't really matter if you're new to me, if you have been working with me. I want you to take advantage of this, because I'm going to be asking super powerful question of how you want to incorporate expressing your soul's purpose in 2022. So I have opened up a couple of slots for next week. So if you follow this link, you will be able to book the call. So I want to encourage you to do that, to be able to make 2020 super great, because we don't want to repeat how we have been living over and over, but it's the time to take our life to the next level. If you really are want to be serious about embodying wholeness, if you are really serious about letting go of all the false self, the programming, and if you feel called to integrate the self and the soul to be able to express that fully, that is a place for you to book a call. So I can stimulate you through all the questions. So where is, I'm moving a little stuff here on my screen. So let me go to the whiteboard. Oh. So we're talking about moving the self closer to the soul, so the soul can be expressed in the physical world. Yeah. One of the things that I found often is that worthiness is a key. And then worthiness has to do a lot with the belief in you. And Julia talked about, believing in the creator. Yes, believing in the creator. And also, I think there's a room for a lot of us to believe in ourselves. Believe in ourselves. And notice that believing ourselves is about nurturing and cultivating the self, right? Because the soul in the fifth dimension, it's already complete. So there's no such a thing as trying to believe or anything, right? So when we elevate and cultivate and expand the belief in the self, we're actually, that action is moving closer to the soul. Let me probably clarify a little bit more about what it means to move the self closer to the soul. So on day one, I talked about the quality of the soul, right? Happiness. Remove this whiteboard for a moment, because I'm not gonna write just yet. So yesterday I talked about the quality of the soul is happiness, freedom, joy, what else? Ease, peace, all those things that people are looking for. Yeah. And I personally like to sort of promote this idea. The ultimate thing that people are seeking is a feeling of freedom. So when we look at in the personal development industry or in life in general, in the material physical world, what people are seeking is better health, more energy, love, better relationship, meaningful relationship to fulfill, fulfillment of work, more money. Not everyone wants to be wealthy, but nobody wants to have any financial concern, because financial concern gives you a sense of survival. Survival means lack of freedom, right? So everything that people are seeking in the physical world, when people attain all those things that they're seeking, what brings us is the feeling of happiness, feeling of fullness, feeling of wholeness, feeling of love, all those things, which we already are, right? So that's why the whole manifestation process is about the creation is already finished in the spiritual plane, because nothing is lacking. Moving what's already created in the spiritual plane through psychological and emotional activity into the physical form. So we're not creating anything, but we're just manifesting and moving energy from the spiritual plane into the physical world. Does that make sense? And then how do we move the energy from the spiritual plane, what's already created there, to the physical world? By moving the self closer to the soul. How do we do that? The energy of the soul that only knows happiness, love, peace, all the things that I explained, doesn't recognize lack, doesn't recognize disempowerment, doesn't recognize sense of unworthiness, doesn't recognize lack of gratefulness, doesn't recognize any limits. So every single thoughts that we think that is categorized as disempowering or negative thoughts, every feeling that is based on fear, destructive emotions, whenever we are experiencing that, living that, having a habitual thinking pattern, emotional home that is based on disempowerment, including not believing in ourselves, moves us away from the energy of the soul. So when we close our eyes and ask ourselves, what is it that I really, really want? To feel free, to feel like the soul is nourished and nurtured, and to feel deeply fulfilled inside. That's why that's the starting point. It's not the outside circumstance or situation that is the starting point. Most people start from, okay, this is where I'm at. What can I do? So we're not honoring the heart desire and soul's expression. But if you let the outside situation, whatever that circumstance that you might be in, be the starting point, that's not going to be the seed of the manifestation that you want to manifest, because there's some sort of restriction and limits all the time in the physical world. Does that make sense? But we're not conditioned to suspend and put that aside and go inside and ask ourselves, what do I really want and what do I deeply desire? But if you want to become a master of the fate and to be on the driver's seat of owning the power within and integrating this wholeness of who we are, we must begin coming to the heart and then starting from inside. And then have a full trust that the outside will be reshaped based on how I am vibrating inside, because the outside will harmonize always with the inside, right? So there needs to be that conviction with the sustained practice. Yeah. So moving the self closer to the soul is all about empowerment. It's all about freedom. It's all about identifying what is it that I truly want, what am I desiring, and then begin changing how I see myself, I feel about myself, the concept of self-image, and the self-esteem worthiness to meet that desire that I would like to manifest. That is the activity of moving the self closer to the soul. And then notice that when you follow your heart desire and soul's expression, and then begin working on changing how you see you, how you feel about you, that will essentially change the belief about yourself. And when you change the belief about yourself, you start shifting how you see the world and what you believe about the world. It's just inevitable. It's just going to happen, right? So when you have that, the self cultivating, nurturing the self, notice that the distinction between the self and the soul becomes less and less, the quality, because you're coming from your heart desire to express your soul by empowering yourself, by elevating the sense of worthiness, because you choose yourself to be worthy from inside, not because of the validation from outside. The separation of how you see you in your mind and the quality of the soul becomes integrated and merged to become one. And that's when you start feeling absolutely powerful and to be able to express who you truly are without any limits in your thinking. Does that make sense? And the reason that I wanted to really emphasize that in this last portion is because there is this dilemma that this might a little bit puzzle a little bit. So I'm going to go slow again. So Neil Donald Walsh, who wrote the book Conversation with God, was my first spiritual teacher. When I came across his book when I was 17, I was dancing back then. So 17 was, the school system in Japan is a little bit different. So I think I was high school, first or second year of high school. And that's the time that I started to dance. I didn't like school studies, and I just did what I was doing, but I loved going to a bookstore and sort of exploring different spiritual books, right? So that was where my real growth happened. And this simple quote that Neil talks about, which is life is not about you, it's about everybody else whose life you touch. At the beginning, when I heard that quote, it sounded really nice and it didn't grab me. But the more I started to understand what we're talking about here and the relationship between the soul and the self and the physical world, and if I expand a little bit more, that infinite intelligence, some people call God, some people call creator, some people call source, right? The intentionality of the universe that brought each and every one of us on this earth plane, we are connected. That's where we receive the power. And whenever, the self and the soul unite, we are able to tap into that energy and plug in. And then the infinite starts speaking through us, because each soul is a medium, the individualization of the infinite universal intelligence. So the unity and the wholeness of who we are in that realm, in the realm of fifth dimension, the soul and the infinite intelligence already exist, right? And I am convinced, and I hope that this resonates with you. I am fully convinced that the role that we're playing as each soul on this physical earth is to bring the soul closer to the soul, self closer to the soul. So only then we can plug into the infinite universal intelligence to express uniquely our own voice, but it's the voice that's coming through. The more we feel powerful by choosing to be worthy, choosing to see ourselves in a sacred, ideal version of us, to feel full and powerful and confident and worthy, because that is who we are. That is what the infinite intelligence is seeking us to be, because only then that bigger part of us can express through us. And this is so amazing, right? Because the world and most people in the world are conditioned to be the opposite. So that's why the process of life, the journey of life, where we got thrown into life and then we were raised in a certain family, and then parents, most of the time, parents are not aware of the programming, right? So we do what we do and then go to school and have this system. And many of the institutions in the world are driven by fear-based energy. And all those exposure that we get through in the early stage of our life, we're getting exposed to all the contrast. And I am convinced that we're designed to go through all the contrast so we can turn our attention back to the light, to realize that essence of who we are, to realize that we can nurture and cultivate the self, because self is not determined by the dynamic, and we can choose to be whoever we want to be, and to be able to move the self closer to the soul so we can integrate the self and the soul to be able to express our soul's purpose. And only then we can fully plug into the infinite, so we can become the medium of the infinite, able to express through us. And what we're doing is essentially to utilize that energy to influence this person, influence this person, influence this person, to help them wake up each and every person in the world to do exactly the same. So one of the things that the language that Neil uses is each one of us is a messenger. Each one of us is a messenger, and we do our work inside to turn the lights on so that we can turn other people's lights on as well. And the vehicle can be anything. And what I mean by vehicle, you could be a teacher, you could be a therapist, you could be a finance person, whatever that is. But the essence of how we want to connect with people and to develop ourselves and to influence others, to connect with what's deep inside, is what we are here to do. And I'm going to bring the quote back. Life is not about you. It's about everybody else whose life we touch. Yeah. Life is not about you. That's why you need to choose yourself first. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Because it's a natural inclination to think that, oh, if Neil is saying life is not about me, I'm going to help this person, I'm going to help this person, and to put myself last, right? That is not what it is. Because only when you're able to peel off your programming and become the light of who you already are by moving the self closer to the soul, only then you can influence others to do the same. So all the unworthiness, the sense of inferiority, difficult to say that word for me, and things like, judgment, guilt, jealousy, envy, what's the other word? Shame, those things, or all the past trauma that is influencing us to limit us, who we truly are, who we can possibly become. We work on ourselves to turn the lights on for the sake of others. We're not doing that for ourselves. We're doing that because only then we can touch other people. And that cycle, that way of thinking, is aligned with the laws of the universe. The way that many people tends to think is that, okay, I'm serving, I'm helping, I'm in gratitude, and people tend to put themselves last because naturally many people don't believe in their potential. They want to believe it, but there's a little bit of fear of being successful, fear of going outside of your current self-image, fear of graduating and letting go of the familiar self. That's because we're focusing on ourselves. When you start feeling like you are not worthy enough, and then when you're focusing on that, you're focusing on yourself. But if we create a thinking process and the energy of, oh, I am here to go through this and I have a gift, and by me cultivating the worthiness and elevating the sense of self and building and nurturing the belief, climbing the ladder of belief to become who I am supposed to become, so I can feel free to express what I can offer in my voice, so I can touch other people. That needs to be the inspiration for us to become uncomfortable, to peel off all the layers. Does that make sense? So the way that I see in the general public is that people start taking care of others and then they put themselves last, because that seems to be what's aligned with Neil's quote. Life is not about you, but it's about everybody else whose life you touch. But you can really touch in a deeper way only by taking care of yourself first. And when we really begin understanding the law of cause and effect and perpetual transmutation of energy, that you become that person and you start vibrating in a certain state, and then you start being able to give that energy to people. So whatever that is that you might be currently working on, the sense of worthiness or negative pattern, how can we begin becoming courageous enough that you want to work on yourself inside for the sake of others, not for yourself? And then you become and demonstrate and become a certain person, and then you feel the freedom because you want to help others. And that is a true integration of wholeness, because in the spiritual plane, the wholeness exists, right? And then when we are gifted with this individual energy and the soul, and then when we start understanding the dynamic between the self and the soul, and others exist in the physical world. So when we begin turning the lights on deep within us, and then when we're able to influence others to turn the lights on, we create this domino effect in a movement. I want to call it circular expansive movement, to include people to become the master of their fate. And then when we're starting to influence all those people to be able to be the ideal sacred version, we are bringing the energy of wholeness, the oneness, in the physical world. Does that make sense? So that energy already exists. Each individual needs to tap into that energy. And then by choosing ourselves first, to work on ourselves first, because our inside is always the cause of the outside. And only when we demonstrate that, we are able to influence others to take the same path. And that cycle energy dynamic is the path of the fulfillment of the soul's purpose. Each and every one of us, a soul, arrived on this planet as a messenger to influence others. And in that process, cultivating the gift, working on ourselves and moving the self closer to the soul, and then using that energy to influence others to do the same. And by doing so, we start waking up and elevating each and every person. The lights becomes brighter and brighter. And then ultimately, we will be illuminating the world together. And that one light together is the oneness in the physical world. So the purpose in action is all about choosing ourselves first and then decide to work on our belief, decide to work on the self to live every single moment in the ideal version and to begin focusing on influencing the world through that work. That is a true purpose in action. And if I can remind you, the whole theme of this workshop is about to be able to express your soul's energy in the physical world. The key is to move the self closer to the soul. Any comments, everybody? Well, Julia has a shift. The energy of wholeness, yes. So whenever we are having a disempowering internal thoughts or experience, we are focusing on ourselves. Like, let me give you an example of the public speaking. Many people fear public speaking. The only reason that people fear public speaking is because they're focusing on ourselves. We want to focus on them, the others, but you choose you first so you can focus on others. I think many people choose others first, focusing on themselves. Can you see the flip? Choosing and focusing. Many people focus on themselves, so that focus creates some disempowering feelings, fear-based, what if, anxiety, and then they're choosing others. But I'm asking everyone to flip that. You choose yourself first to work on yourself because you're focusing on others to help others. Jennifer asking, will that replay be available tonight? I think I need to watch it again before Sunday. And thank you, I have to run. Okay, yes, the replay will be sent shortly. And the replay, all the recordings will be available until Tuesday night. Okay, Eric is saying, what are you saying? We are flowed, but if we can change ourselves, we can help others. Yes, that is perfect. Cheryl saying, once we're integrated, what are we supposed to influence or help on others? So that is a good question. I believe that each and every one of us has a unique voice. So whatever the vehicle that you're using, right? I consider myself now as a soul purpose coach. And it's interesting. Coach is an interesting terminology. I feel like I'm a guide. But if whatever the profession that you're in, you want to use that as a vehicle, but true fulfillment and happiness and success can only be achieved when we have this integration. So I think, like let's say if a teacher at school, there is in every single role that we would play as a profession, or even in family, mothers, fathers, siblings, right? There is a activity in the material world, right? I don't want to call it surface, but it's a surface level conversation. But there's a deeper level of influence that we can give to people. So it doesn't, to me, it doesn't really matter, if you're a DJ, if you're a singer, there is a message that you want to deliver to people through the work that you do. So that is how you want to use that to influence others. I don't know what your profession is or what you want to focus on. You can be a mother and then to influence that to the children, right? But if you have any question, let me know. So I think that's it. So the replay will be sent shortly. It's also going to be uploaded in the email, a Facebook group. And I'm going to drop the link for the call again. So you can book a call for the goal setting for 2022 to be able to integrate your soul's purpose. And then we're going to meet tomorrow. I'll send you the Zoom link for tomorrow, going deeper Q&A. So bring all the questions tomorrow, and we might do some experiential stuff if we have a little bit of time left tomorrow. But it's going to be a place that you can go deeper and ask any questions. So that is it, everybody. Thank you for joining live. If you're watching the replay too, thank you so much. And hopefully see you tomorrow. And that is it. So you can sustain this energy. Sustaining this energy is key, because when you get off this, you start going to a default state. Notice that, and to come back to this. So over the weekend, watching this, listening to this multiple times is a good thing. Okay, have an awesome day, everybody.